This is the video discussion of Chapter 3, first Part 1, entitled Performing Non-Technical Tests. In this chapter, we'll talk about social engineering attacks as part of exploiting vulnerabilities, and also we'll have discussions about physical security attacks as part of vulnerability exploits. I have here basic components of social engineering attacks. In target evaluation, attackers with specific target in mind will evaluate those targets and determine how susceptible they are to specific targets of social engineering. They usually evaluate the general level of awareness of computing technology and cybersecurity. In pretexting, this is a form of social engineering in which you present a fictional situation to gain access or information. Information gained in the initial reconnaissance stage of the physical penetration test. This will provide the detail needed for a successful pre-testing while you are on site by making stories more believable. In psychological manipulation, attackers exploit humans' willingness to place trust in others and prey upon their sometimes erroneous decision-making abilities. Attackers also exploit inherent cognitive biases within all people to craft more effective and targeted attacks. In building relationship, the more comfortable and friendly a victim is with the attacker, the more likely they will trust the attacker. Attackers may therefore try to get to know their target on a personal level. And last is in the motivation, attackers will try to motivate their target to take some actions that will ultimately benefit the attacker. I have here a list of motivation techniques. In authority, it focuses on making the target believe that you have the power or right to ask them to perform actions or provide information. In scarcity, this is related to fear-based approach, but focuses on there being fewer rewards opportunities requiring faster actions and thus creating a sense of urgency. In urgency, this is the sense that the action needs to be performed often because of one of the other reasons listed here. In social proof, it relies on persuading the target that other people have behaved similarly and thus that they should or could as well. Likeness or similarity between the social engineer and the target is a means of building trust as the target is set up to sympathize with the pen tester due to their similarity. Um, Fear that something will go wrong or that they will be punished if they do not respond or help is a common target. Phishing is the social engineering tactic in which the attacker attempts to obtain sensitive information from a user by posing as a trustworthy um, figure through email communication. Phishing attacks target sensitive informations like passwords, username, or credit card information. Due to the rise of communication media other than email, the term phishing can also encompass an attempt to obtain sensitive information through electronic communications medium. Phishing is the most common and effective social engineering tactics because it is easy to distribute, it is impersonal, and can leverage technical tricks like spoofing the from headers in email to make it more convincing. For instance, an attacker may prepare an email in which the attacker claims to work from the victim's bank, and then the contents of the email telling the victim that they should send their password to the attacker so that their account can be properly reset. If the victim doesn't comply within 1 week, the bank will terminate their account. This leverages the motivation technique of urgency and fear. When the victim receives the email, the spoofed header makes it appear as if the email is actually coming from the bank. The victim, unwise to the threat, complies with fraudulent requests, and a number of tools including Metasploit or social engineering attack in Kali, they have built-in features that make it easy to launch a phishing campaign. I have here some types of phishing attacks. First in the list is smishing, also known as SMS phishing. This is a phishing attack in which the attacker entices their victim through SMS text messages. The prevalence of smartphones may make using SMS more attractive to an attacker than email, but people are more likely to ignore text messages from unknown or untrusted senders than the email. Then we have phishing, also known as voice phishing. This is a phishing attack in which an attacker entices their victim through a traditional telephone system or VoIP. While speaking to someone directly in order to entice them, this may be difficult for an attacker to pull off. It can also be more effective as people tend to place more trust in those that they can have a real-time conversation with. In farming, in this type of attack, the attacker entices the victim into navigating to a malicious page that has been set up to look official. The site may mimic an existing website, like the victim's banking website, or it may simply have an air of legitimacy. The victim entices with this website in order to provide their sensitive information to the attacker, like filling out a fake login form with their password. Spear phishing is a phishing attack irrespective of the medium, and that is crafted to target a specific person or group of people. Spear phishing attacks require that the attacker perform some reconnaissance and gather some people-based information on their targets before launching the attack. The attackers uses what they learn about their target's habits, interests, and job responsibilities to create a custom message that is much more convincing than a generic message sent to anyone and everyone. For example, an attacker might know that a target's birthday is coming up soon and that they plan on holding a party at a specific venue. The attacker can pretend to work for this venue and mention that it mentioned that the target's birthday party. Okay. And then we also have whaling. This is a form of spear phishing attacks that targets particularly wealthy or powerful individuals like CEO, or say those who are under or individuals that are in the Fortune 500 companies. The risk is higher for an attacker. Such individuals are likely to be better protected than an average person. However, the payout for the attacker will be significantly higher. For example, an urgent a phony invoice might induce a CEO to order the finance department to wire a long overdue payment to the attacker's account. Impersonation is the act of pretending to be someone you are not. Many of the most effective social engineering attacks, especially in phishing, usually include impersonation as a component. In that sense, impersonation is an element of an attack rather than attack itself. Rather than an attack itself. Impersonation often relies on situations where a target cannot sufficiently establish the attacker's identity. For example, of impersonation, this is when an attacker pretends to be a help desk worker and calls an employee asking for their password so that they can reset an account database. If the target isn't familiar with the help desk employees or the phone number that they use, then they may not be suspicious of the request. Impersonation can also be more effective in face-to-face interactions. Most people want to avoid appearing rude or dismissive when they're talking with another human being directly. So, they may be less likely to question the imposter than if they had been contacted through email or on the phone. Of course, face-to-face impersonation will only work if the target doesn't know what the impersonated individual looks like, or doesn't know them well enough to be suspicious of their appearance. In elicitation, this is the process of collecting or acquiring data from human being. This is different than information gathered about human beings. In elicitation, a social engineer will attempt to learn or access useful information by contacting people who may provide certain key insights. The advantage of this approach is that some knowledge useful to an attack or pen test can only be acquired by other people. Like impersonation, elicitation is not a social engineering attack per se, but an approach that may be used as part of an actual attack. Some specific elicitation techniques include, say, requests. Let's say in here, this is where the social engineer in a trusted position requests that the target provide them with some useful information. This is the most direct method of elicitation. Or let's say interrogation. This is where a social engineer directly asks people questions with the intention of extracting useful information. The social engineer may be posing as an authority figure to improve their chances of eliciting answers. Or let's say through survey. This is where, let's say, the social engineer indirectly collects data from individuals, and surveys are effective where interrogation is not a viable option. Or, and then last is the observation. This is where a social engineer examines the target's behavior in a particular environment with or without their knowledge. So a person's behavior and day-to-day routine can provide the social engineer with insight into how they think or act in certain situations.